Thank you all for joining into this presentation. My goal here is to help you understand the requirements to implement UDL at your college. We'll review some necessary characteristics that a college must possess to implement UDL, and then we'll look at various stages of UDL implementation and what strategies can be used to progress the movement of UDL at your college. So that's our goals for today. Hopefully, we can help you learn a little bit of something. So this is me and my family. We have a tradition of going to see the sunrise over the ocean on Christmas morning, hence the Buddy the Elf shirt. I have two kids. One's a 14-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl. So really my full-time job is to drive them around and make sure that they have food to eat. But when I'm not doing that, my other full-time job is at Harper College in Palatine, Illinois. Oh, that's the wrong button, sorry. Did you guys lose me?
We see you, but we lost your slides.
Oh, wonderful. I think I lost, I lost the Zoom room somehow. Wonderful. This is the problem with technology. I was all ready to go. Let me see if I can get back in. All right.
We can see your screen now, Cammy.
Okay, thank you. It's just giving me a bunch of, there we go. But I can't see it. There we go. It keeps giving me messages. Do you see those messages too?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you can see the screen, we're just gonna leave it like that. So we're all set now, right? Get that little blunder out of the way so we can get moving. So as I said, I work at Harper College, which is in Palatine, Illinois. It's about 25 miles northwest of Chicago. I teach accounting there. I've been there for about 12 years, and I've taught, or I worked for a public accounting firm before that. So let's get into a little bit more about how we're going to do this. Maybe it's not working. All right, so if you've never used this Menti presentation format before, all you need is a phone or another tablet. You're going to go to menti.com and you're going to enter in those codes at the top there, 287782. And I can hear somebody else's microphone, which might cause some problems. So can you just take a second to make sure those mics are turned off? I think I lost my host when I accidentally got out of here, so I can't turn off other people's microphones. So if you could just make sure, that would be great. All right, let's go back. So again, we're going to be using a couple different things today. We're going to use this Menti, which you'll need a phone or a tablet for. If you don't have it, it's okay. You can still participate through that chat feature. We also might need a pen, paper, take some notes. We'll do some thought process during this time. So we're going to go ahead and try this. So it's a great tool to use in a classroom because it allows students to ask questions without having to raise their hand or talk in front of a large group. So just go ahead and answer this question. How do we feel today? Are we excited? I should have added hungry because it's about that time. But again, this will just help us kind of participate together as a group. Maybe we can answer questions, and it'll allow us to kind of be a little bit more interactive. A couple of things I also want to point out. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little question mark. This will allow you to ask questions during the presentation, and then I can go in and just answer them as soon as possible when there's a break. So it's a great feature. Again, I use this in the classroom, and it really helps students who would never ask a question to ask those questions. All right, I think we all get it, right? We're gonna move on. Okay, we're all here because we think UDL is amazing. And because we understand the impact that UDL has, it's our job to educate others and to keep that UDL movement alive at our colleges. And we all have a story why we sought out UDL. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my story. I was rather new to teaching, and I was teaching a night course in our fast track program, which is designed for working adults. These courses are about 8-week courses. And there was a woman named Carrie who came up to me with 2 weeks left in the course. And she was telling me how she was really struggling. Now, I teach accounting. A lot of students struggle throughout the whole thing. So I didn't really notice that she was struggling. There's a lot of fairly low grades, and that's typical. But she explained to me that because of a domestic violence situation, she had a brain injury and she had little short-term memory. Studying and retaining information was difficult for her. And like I said, I was new to teaching, so don't judge. But I said to her, I really wish you would have came to me sooner. We could have worked something out. I could have give you some study tools. And she explained that every time she tells that story, she has to relive that moment. And that sometimes it just isn't worth it. So I worked extensively with her over the next couple weeks. She got through that course, but this was a huge learning experience for me. I was thinking to myself, why should I have to wait for a student to come to me to offer help? And why do they have to explain themselves to everyone every time they meet somebody new? Just as this woman had a story, and so does everyone, especially not one that they like telling over and over again. So let me ask you this. What's your story? If we can take just a couple minutes to write down what that story is or why you're interested in UDL, I think that might be helpful going forward. And then I'll get to this question that I see here. So just as a quick side note to answer this question, do you have to pay for Mentimeter? The answer is no, unless you want to have multiple questions in one presentation. For educational purposes, I think it was not that pricey because I did buy it. I think it was like 10 bucks a month or something like that. But you can use it a couple times just to make sure you like it before you buy it. So if we're all done or about done writing down that story, I think it's just good that we sometimes go back and revisit these stories to remind us to keep those UDL initiatives in the forefront and revisit why we do what we do. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just going to show everybody, oh, you guys are quick. Look at this. We want to make sure that we recognize why we need this change and why UDL is important. So if you want to go through, if you haven't done so yet already, just kind of put in either a name or a reason why, and we can watch these populate to see why we do what we do and why UDL is important. I like it's just the right thing to do. Learning centered. It's access for everyone. And I see some names in here. This is great. And student success is a big benefit of UDL and why our college is currently really focusing on UDL. All right, so let's take another quick second. Let me answer this question and then we'll move forward. You can always +1 some of these. I think that's meaning that she agrees with a lot of these answers. Oh, geez. My video there. All right. So moving forward, sometimes the students, especially in higher education, once they enter that platform, it's up to them to seek these accommodations. And there's so many reasons why they don't want to do this. For one thing, it's the first time in their lives they don't have to be stuck with the stigma of an accommodation. They think that maybe they can do this on their own and they're going to try it. And typically, by the time they realize that they really can't, it's too late. Some of our non-traditional students, especially at the community college level, they didn't have that Higher Education Act when they first went to school. So they don't even know they have a learning disability because it was never tested. And now once they've re-entered college and start to try to learn, they just assume it should be hard. That's why UDL is so important. We need to meet the needs of these students before we put them in a position like I had with Carrie, where they have to start explaining themselves. So with so many college initiatives, our college in particular was really struggling to keep UDL on the radar. You know, there's so many new ones that come out, it feels like every semester. I thought it was important to do some research and look for ways to not only get colleges to start implementing, but to keep that momentum. And through the research, I came up with these 5 questions. First, what should administration and faculty, how can they support this UDL implementation? How does the available technology make UDL implementation more manageable? And what type of professional development opportunities increase the success of UDL initiatives? And then what can be done to create stakeholder, faculty, and staff awareness, but not only awareness, but acceptance. And I think that's where we get stuck a lot of times. And then finally, how does that institutional culture lead to welcoming and adapting to innovation and change? So we'll look at these questions and we'll see how this implementation can be easier with some activities and strategies. So I went through and I pulled a couple of experts in the field to ask them, what are the necessary characteristics for UDL implementation? And these 6 they came up with. We'll explore each of these 6 characteristics and look at strategies within each of them and other activities that can be done to promote the use of UDL and its implementation. So implementation should be done incrementally. Through the research that I did, it was apparent that colleges that are just beginning to implement UDL have different needs than those who have already begun to see the benefits. In order to build that appropriate foundation for successful fruition of UDL implementation and have those long-term benefits, it's necessary to attain and achieve implementation in these various stages. So I'm going to go ahead and describe what I found each of these stages to be like. From that beginning stage, this is the I stage. Colleges are in that initial discovery stage, and they want to verify, is UDL appropriate avenue to fit the needs of the college? This stage involves understanding the UDL principles and the framework, as well as learning the impact that it has on the student success. In this stage, it's usually just one person, and it's this individual passion that is looking to build awareness and interest across the campus. Then we have this developing stage. This is the we stage. People start to come together. So the UDL principles and framework have shown value to multiple individuals, and that platform has moved from building awareness to building an initiative. So UDL is being promoted hopefully college-wide, and we're looking to increase retention and success rates. Developing colleges are now focusing on obtaining buy-in from key players at the college, and they're looking for advocacy for UDL implementation. In this stage, the college is looking to ignite that motivation and excitement and increase involvement. And then finally, if you've been implementing UDL for quite some time, you're at this mastering level. This is a college-wide effort. So these colleges have already obtained those buy-ins from the key players, and now they're using UDL to achieve compliance to laws and regulations regarding accessibility. These aspects of UDL are taught in required training that faculty and staff have to take, and it's helpful to understand the necessity and the value that UDL provides. So from those definitions, where do you think your college is currently at? This will help us see kind of who's represented here, and it might also be helpful to gain some perspective on some of the answers and the questions that we're going to discuss. Are we all being modest here? Good, so I'm gonna walk you through some of these activities and strategies, especially at the beginning and developing levels, so that we can progress the college forward and make sure that we're headed in the right direction and we keep this momentum. So we're gonna look at those 6 characteristics one by one at these different levels and see what we can do. So first, let me ask you a question. What does a college need from administration to support UDL? Because really, if administration is not on board, it's going to be really hard to keep faculty interested. So what do you think from a standpoint of administration? What do they need to do? And if your mentee is not following along, you can always go and hit go to slide at the top, and it'll bring you to where we're at. The enthusiastic and vocal support and funding. I see a lot of funding, money, awareness. Commitments. I think leadership is the big one here, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. You have to kind of show and do what you expect others to do. Let's take a look at some of our other opportunities how administration can support UDL. So if we are at that beginning stage of implementing UDL, what we really want to do is try, from an administrative standpoint, is give out rewards, show some kind of recognition. And this doesn't have to be anything major. It could be a piece of paper. As long as we're giving this recognition to our faculty and staff who are implementing this, it's going to be recognized by their peers. Again, just bringing awareness, which is in that beginning stage, what our focus is bringing that awareness. And it's always helpful because faculty don't have a lot of time to provide some release time to make sure that they have time to infuse this into their curriculum and start adopting it. Now, a lot of you were at that developing stage already. In that developing stage, we might want to move beyond just college recognition and look for some of those opportunities to provide national recognition. This might be just even providing some opportunities for publications or other opportunities as well that you can just be recognized. And as developing, we're at that we stage, right, where we start collaboration. So administration can start partnering with faculty and staff to maybe apply for grants. As long as we're building in that collaboration and working as a team to implement this UDL. Administration should also start using it themselves. In a meeting or training that has to be done, if they use UDL, others will see the opportunity and the benefits that it provides. So again, if they can practice what they preach, it's going to be helpful. And then I know a lot of you didn't say you were at that mastering level, but we're all trying to work towards that level. So if UDL has already been implemented at your college and we're moving in that direction, administration are looking at UDL to be proactive. Many administrators at this level, they set expectations to use UDL. And they also monitor it for compliance as it shows up in evaluations and in feedback to faculty and staff. Let me go back, and it's a good time to answer this question. Are there some specific examples of admins showing they use UDL themselves? Well, we currently have it used in our orientation meetings. And I know other colleges are doing that as well. So when the president presents during those faculty orientations where everyone is required to attend, and then they'll use some UDL principles, and at the end they'll actually say, we've used UDL to present this, and how did you like that? And we'll get to a point where you can see other uses of how administration are doing this.
Hey.
And again, we can hear somebody's microphone.
So,
And I'll actually mute her. So.
no, that's fine. I don't care.
Not quite sure who that is, but if you can turn off your mic, that might be helpful. So let's look at the faculty level. On a faculty level, there's so little time and there's so many new initiatives that the college wants you to try. So what do you think would be helpful for faculty? Is it professional development? Is it release time? Is it a stipend to help maybe put forth that extra effort? Let's see where these balls all land. People are motivated. It's good to see. All right, so let's look at this in by level and look at how we can support faculty. If this is just, if you're in that beginning stage, we want to maybe offer this as a solution to a problem. How many times has faculty gone to other faculty or gone to administration with a problem they're having with students? If we can show them and introduce them to UDL as a solution to their problem, they're going to be more adept to adopt some of these principles. And once it shows value, then the faculty will use it. Once we have a couple faculty buy-in, they can start forming allies and we can progress in this movement. From a developing standpoint, again, you're looking for collaboration. So the college needs to start collaborating in different types of activities or events, maybe building a community of practice. And what we're trying to do is just get some buy-in from faculty by understanding the need and showing what a big impact that UDL can have. And some of the most faculty who are adverse to this, it's the time commitment. So maybe we need to show them and provide some opportunities for them to learn and try it and show them how just small changes make a difference. I did have one student who, he was at a 4-year college here in Chicago and could not pass his accounting class, and they sent him to our community college. The advisors told him to take my class because it's UDL friendly, which he appreciated, but we're always learning. So he said to me, I don't understand why you write on the whiteboard like that. It's really hard to take notes. And I, of course, didn't quite get it. And then he said, the whiteboards are all lengthwise and you're writing lengthwise, but my notes and my paper are up and down. So just that small change that I made had a huge impact on all of my students' notes. So we can show faculty how just small changes can make a big impact. And then finally, at that mastering level for faculty support, once we're here, these colleges and this faculty, they need to become advocates for the program. Maybe this is a college-wide initiative and we need to focus on team learning and knowledge sharing. And this might mean across multiple institutions because we want to make sure we continue to share and grow. So I talked to some colleges who actually have statewide communities of practice so they can get ideas from other colleges of what they're doing and the impact that it's having. So we're going to move on to technology. And this is a big area because a lot of people say, is technology important? Is it necessary? I know it makes it more engaging and interesting, but is it necessary? So, although not necessary, the right technology does make the implementation of UDL much more manageable. So if we're at those beginning stages, it's so easy to get sucked in by some of the really cool technology that's out there. So we want to make sure we stay abreast of the advancing in technology because it does change so quickly. We want to make sure that our investment in technology is for the right purpose. We also have to make sure we're already using the technology we have. For example, if we have learning management systems, let's make sure that the college, everyone at the college is using it so that our students are all on the same platform. From a developing standpoint or stage, it's important to understand how this technology is really related to UDL. You want to make sure that it's going to be useful. And some really great ideas that I've seen as far as developing stage is to implement an innovation lab so that faculty and staff have the opportunity. Again, I can hear a lot of papers and stuff moving, so we might want to make sure that our mics are muted. So anyway, the innovation lab was a really great idea. So they just bring in new technology for faculty and staff to try to see if it would be useful before actually purchasing that technology. So we want to make sure that people are going to use it before we invest in this. And finally, let's look at that mastering level, and then I'll get to your questions. From the mastering level standpoint, if they've been utilizing UDL for a while, we want to make sure that this technology is actually available to faculty and to students. A lot of the times, the college will make technology available to faculty and not necessarily the students. Or they'll also make it available to faculty, but you have to walk across campus and 3 streets down to get to the computer that actually has this technology on that. And that's just building that barrier. So we want to make sure it's easily accessible. Some other great ideas is to combine budgets for purchases. So I know our colleges work by different departmental budgets. And sometimes if we just combine those budgets for a specific UDL purpose, it'll benefit even more faculty and more students. So let's go ahead and answer these questions here. Can't too much technology scare faculty away? Yes, right? And that's why I think that innovation lab is so important. Or even another idea was having these tech showcases so that everyone will have a chance to see what is out there before we start bringing in way too much technology, and then faculty and staff won't use it because of the learning curve and all that's involved. So I think it's important to make sure we really look at these technology purchases and make sure they're going to be used. We're going to get to this right now. Gaming platforms. I'm a big fan of using online gaming for different features, but we're going to let everyone answer that question. So let's get to that now. So is there, I love that segue. What technology or gaming platforms or online platforms have you found useful to implement UDL? We can just enter those here because a lot of this technology, some of it's free, some of it's really expensive, and some of the free stuff is just as good or better than the stuff that we buy. So what have you used that you found helpful to implement UDL? I really like Padlet. I use that in particular with my online lectures since I teach in a flipped classroom. And this allows me to see those questions that students have while they're watching the lecture so that when I do go into the class, I can answer those questions immediately. There's a lot of closed captioning softwares. Google Slides with live caption. These are all great features. So hopefully that answered some of those questions of what we could use. If you haven't tried some of these, maybe you can go through and try them. We'll let this scroll for a few more seconds to get them all in here. I know my students keep asking for Kahoot. Can we have another Kahoot? Another one that I use is Quizlet Live, which also provides a lot of collaboration, and they have to work together. And I see that comment that they're working with a lot of faculty at the beginning stages. And I would say that using technology in this format is just going to help bring out some of that engagement, make our students a little bit more receptive. And most of our students are already into this technology. I've gone through and just asked the students, what do you want me to use? What are you using that's helpful, and how can I supplement that? There's a lot of great feedback here, but just for the sake of time, we're gonna move on to some of those other questions we have. So let's look at professional development. Especially, I know a lot of you are at these beginning stages, and I can see from your comments, it's overwhelming. And we don't want our professional development in UDL to be overwhelming. We don't want to scare anyone away before we even start, right? So let's make it easy for them. If you bring in speakers and just have those speakers available at the college, it makes it very easy for faculty and staff to just walk over and go see that speaker. Conferences are a good idea. Again, anything that we can really focus on bringing awareness and interest. So if there's a UDL or if there's a workshop on UDL, maybe we put it into some required training that they have to do already, just to kind of say, hey, this is out there. And, you know, food is always helpful. So if you offer food at any of these things, you're going to get people to go. And that's what we want. From a developing standpoint, we're going to try to embed UDL principles into what the college is already trying to do. So in those required trainings, for example, we have online training that has to be completed if anyone's teaching the blended or online classes, and we have a UDL module in there. So these faculty and staff have to at least be introduced and know a little bit about UDL before they can teach online or in these blended classes. We're also looking to learn from other colleges and see what they're doing, and remind faculty and staff that this focus is trying to help our students. And at that mastering level, professional development is already part of that required training. There are maybe webinars or additional modules that you can do, but the college is really making sure that it's staying compliant with all the rules and regulations for accessibility. So we need to make these easily accessible to faculty and staff as well. So maybe offer them during summer when faculty have a little bit more time, or put them during the time when they're prepping for classes so that they see the benefit in actually taking part of this training, because they're going to not only learn something new, but they're prepping their classes with that already. And also in new faculty training, we need to make sure that this is part of that so that those new faculty have been introduced to UDL. So how can a college create awareness? Awareness and acceptance. We're going to focus on that now. So if you are at those beginning stages, this is a huge part of that beginning level. Some things that we can do to create awareness are sneak UDL into some grant applications. That grant doesn't have to be for UDL, but all we want to do is just mention universal design for learning, because that will bring the topic up, and anybody who reads that grant application, and we know that these applications have to be approved by so many people, it just gets those words out there into the public. We're looking at recognition, awards, things like that. Another great idea, if you're just starting, is to participate in a voluntary compliance audit, because what this is going to do is bring up some issues that need improvement at your college, and then you can present UDL as a way to solve all these issues, and everything can be fixed, right, with UDL. So look for those opportunities. As far as developing, we have to show the need. You really have to look at what that current strategic plan is at the college, what the college is focusing on, and then bring UDL in as a solution for that. A lot of our colleges are looking at completion and retention rates right now. So present UDL to them as a way to increase those completion and increase retention rates. So what we need to do is just show them how to use UDL to solve some of their already established issues. And at that mastering level, they're really focused on compliance. They need to show that UDL is a proactive response to compliance instead of a reactive approach. You can search all the lawsuits and everything that's happening with a lot of the different colleges, and UDL can be used as a solution. And we don't ever want to get to that point where we have an issue. So UDL is this proactive response that can solve that. The problem that we typically have is that we start off really strong with UDL implementation. We get a few people really excited, and then it kind of fades out. We get stuck, and it's hard to move forward. So what are some other ideas that you can come up with to help other people stay motivated or keep the momentum of UDL? You can enter that now. That would be great. So make a presence, make a short video, invest in the infrastructure to support this. I think a UDL learning community is a great idea, and just getting a couple of those key people in place. Engage with deans to share faculty in conversation. That's really where it starts, isn't it? Having that conversation. And it's helpful if you have a couple of really great faculty who are immersed in the UDL community, and then other people know where to go to get that information about UDL. I think recognition is a great way to increase that motivation. And I like this comment to have folks at the top talk about it, because really all of our focus, what our new initiatives are coming from the top. That's why we really need to get some buy-in from those key players to move forward. All right, let's move on. Align with the strategic vision. That's a great next part. So as far as our culture goes, this was the last characteristic to implement UDL, is the culture of the college. So it's really important that we make sure that we include universal design in the mission of the college, or put it in the vision. Put it in the next strategic plan. Have those words out there so it stays an initiative. Usually those strategic plans are about 5 years. So if we can fight to get that universal design for learning in that strategic plan, we will know that it'll remain a focus for some time. We want to make sure that we sell this as a proactive approach instead of a reactive response, and meeting some of the accessibility standards. And that, I think, will give us some of that buy-in. So going back to those first questions that I was looking at, I know this is a lot of words on one screen, and we can come back and look at it more in depth later. But I wanted to kind of go through some of these common themes along every stage. So no matter where we are at, we know what we need to do. So no matter what stage you're in, some of the common things around administration and faculty support were to provide that release time and recognition. And I saw that in some of the responses that you had as well. As far as technology, we need to make sure that it supports UDL. So any technology approval should make sure that we're using it for the right purpose. As far as professional development, we need to make sure we're balancing between time spent and value added. So make sure that faculty recognize the value in the implementation of UDL. If we can put that into training we've already done, they're not going to have to put extra time into that. And then all of our students will benefit. As far as building awareness, we need to make sure that UDL, again, is being seen as a proactive approach to meeting those accessibility needs. We need to make sure that it's in that mission or the strategic plan or the vision of the college. So through all of this, what I did was I put together a UDL scorecard. We're going to take some time to look at this. This has the Google link to it, but this is also in, if you go to your, how you got in here into this Zoom room, you'll also see this resource 1 here. That's your UDL scorecard. I'm going to pull it up as well and walk you through that. But I want to make sure we take a couple minutes to look through this. And what this UDL scorecard does is it's going to put you into different levels and give you some action plans and strategies to use to increase UDL implementation at your college. So as you can see, if you go through this and answer where you're at currently, if you've implemented it or not implemented it, you can see where you're at, and it's going to tell you what else you need to do and how you need to move forward. Once you answer where you're at, you can put an X in that little box or something. Then it'll tell you if you need to do a couple more things or should you be moving on to the next scorecard. So if you're in those beginning stages, you can fill out this first scorecard. If you think you're at that developing level, then you're going to go to the developing scorecard and fill out these activities. And we can see, are we doing what we should be doing to progress the implementation of UDL? So let's take a couple minutes. It's a lot to look through, but maybe if you can just scan through, see if you are, or if you thought you were at this developing level, are you doing some of these activities? I think most of you were or thought you were at this developing level. So read through these, or if you were able to download it from that link, you can fill it out and see if it agrees with where you thought you were. And if nothing else, this is going to just be able to give you some ideas of what you can do to progress forward. I'm going to give you just a couple, we're kind of running out of time, but I'm going to give you a couple minutes to take a look through this, and I'll scroll through it as well. So if you don't have access, then you can kind of look at the screen and see where we're at. Let me start at the beginning of the developing one since most of you were here. So I see in the chat room that all right, somebody provided the link there. Thank you for the scorecard. It is also available in the agenda under your resources where you found the link to get in. And again, I will make this as well as the presentation available to you afterwards, all in that Google link. But for the sake of time and to make sure we can answer any questions, I'm going to come back to the presentation. Let's answer this question first. If you have access, you should have access to this Google Drive, but I would go in and make sure, because I didn't want everyone to change it. If you download it into your Excel, into an Excel file, you'll be able to answer the questions and work in it. And that Excel file will be made available to you and it should be available through that link again. If you're going into this page here where you saw the abstract, this resource 1 will be a link to that Excel file and not the Google Drive. But because I want to make sure we have time to answer any other questions that you might have, I wanted to know, just by looking through that scorecard, and I know we didn't have a lot of time to do that and to read through that, but first, is your college where you thought you were? And second, are there any other activities that you have done yourself or any that you would recommend trying to progress this UDL implementation forward? Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do, and sometimes obviously we can't capture everything. These were all just suggestions, but it is just a useful way to kind of evaluate where you're at and see what kind of improvements you can make. Yeah, good luck on that grant proposal. It's always helpful when you have some funding. Yeah, so take some time when you have a little bit of additional time, maybe just look through that scorecard and look for some additional ideas of what I can do at your college or what you can do individually just to make sure that we keep progressing UDL. And that's true, there's always room for improvement, right? And even beyond that mastering level, if you are there or you get there, please help other colleges do the same. So I just want to make sure we leave enough time. If there are any questions or comments, you can always contact me. cwayne@harpercollege.edu is my email address. So if you're looking through this later or after you leave here, had some time to process everything, because I know we went through a lot in an hour. If you have questions that come up, please just send me an email and I'll get back to you. So if there's no other, let me just check this chat and make sure questions aren't coming in through there. They love Menti. I love Menti too, it's fun. And again, this is one of those technologies that you have to use for a little while to see if it is going to be useful for the long term. But I do love it. It's something great to try. I'm going to put a copy of the PowerPoint into that, or even a link to this Menti presentation. It's just a website link. I will put that in the resources after we're done, so that will have all of the answers to the questions as well. Thank you guys for attending, and I hope you enjoy. I really enjoyed this whole experience of the DigiCon, and I hope you are as well.